Joining us from the site right now, Mark Harris. Plenty of articles and posts from Mark over the last 24 to 48 hours and some crazy videos you've got to go see. Mark, thank you for the time, man. And the craziest I've seen on the site today involves a 22-year-old impersonating a 13-year-old and actually playing in a JV game. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, when I saw the story break, I was like, oh, it's gonna be one of those stories where we unfortunately don't have video of it.
Right.
But thankfully we did get video, and the video is pretty unbelievable. It's about as crazy as you could imagine a 22-year-old playing against girls that are barely teenagers.
And I mean, she's driving the lane off the glass. She's, and one. She's giving the and one sign, like, count it, I'm going to the line. I mean, digging in behind the scenes on this, how does this come about? And I mean, just thinking of it from the perspective of everyone in attendance knew to film this.
Yeah,
How is this allowed?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So the story goes that the 13-year-old girl was out of town playing a travel, I guess, AAU game, let's call it. And frankly, this 22-year-old sounded like she just saw an opportunity to get buckets. So the first thing that I kind of saw was the first thing I kind of looked for was the bench. So I was like, okay, maybe she played because they were short a girl, but they had a player on the bench. So they actually had 5 players to play. This is a JV game. Nobody cares about it regardless. So if they have to play 5 people for however long JV basketball games are these days, 48 minutes, whatever it is, they could have done it. And they decided not to. And this 22-year-old, Arlisha Boykins, and from Churchland High School, decided to take the court. And like you said, like kind of the first highlight, she swats a girl's ball so hard that it goes out of frame. The next highlight is her getting an and one and doing the finger down as like she's the NBA player, something you would see LeBron or something do after a big play. But it's a sight to behold.
Here is the news report with video on the 22-year-old assistant coach impersonating the 13-year-old player on the court.
All right, file this one under one of the strangest stories I've ever heard of and talked about. Last Friday, we received an email from the mother of a player on the Churchland High School girls JV basketball team that an assistant coach on the team named Arlisha Boykins impersonated a 13-year-old player on the team that was out of town for a club basketball tournament. Here's video from that game. Churchland is in the black uniforms. Number 1 right there that just came up with the black block shot. We're told that as Arlisha Boykins. They were taking on Nansemond River. This video has been edited to show you some of the highlights. Arlisha is apparently a 22-year-old young woman going up against 14 and 15-year-old girls. Now, we have confirmed that Boykins is no longer an employee of Portsmouth Public Schools. And since this game, the student athletes on the team and parents decided to just end the season. They will not be playing any more games this year. Portsmouth Public Schools did launch an investigation into this matter. The details have not been revealed by officials quite yet. Now, I spoke with the father of the 13-year-old girl that was being impersonated. Here's what he had to say about his reaction when he heard the news.
Coaches, always preach to the kids, about integrity and those type of things. So I was just shocked. I just need, an apology, because I haven't yet received one from, the overseer of the program or nothing. He just came out and just told us the stipulations of what was going to happen, but there was no apology issued personally to us, even in his presence.
We're going to follow up with this story if more information comes out. Those parents told me today that they are simply just seeking an apology from Churchland school officials.
Only an apology needed. Mark Harris continues with us on OutKick 360. And she's dominating on the video, by the way. You can see it at OutKick.com. She's dominating the way Leah Thomas would dominate in the pool, Mark.
Yeah, exactly. And to your point earlier about thank goodness they filmed it. Clearly, Nansemond River High School in Virginia takes their basketball pretty seriously if they're filming the JV games and breaking it down after games. But yeah, like I said, it's a sight to behold, and it's kind of unfortunate, kind of a weird ending to the story too about the student athletes and the parents being like, all right, we're done with this. And the report also says that the girl that she impersonated no longer wants to go to school there, which I don't necessarily blame her.
She's a lot to live up to
known
now.
as the girl that got impersonated. Yeah, there's you're not the 22-year-old that put up who God knows who. I wish we had the stat line, but unfortunately we don't have the box score of the JV game.
Yeah, yes, exactly. That was probably her role. She was supposed to keep the game sheet, and instead she suited up. Mark Harris with us from OutKick.com. Treegate is another headline out there for in golf, and it's involving the same rivalry that has dominated headlines over the last week or so with Rory McIlroy and Patrick Reed. Reed, was he caught cheating again? Because, well, his answer, his response to the cheating allegations, Mark, not all that great. In fact, I think it makes him look even more guilty.
Yeah, it's not a bad look. And kind of the simple question, like you said, is did he get caught cheating? And gosh, the slow-mo video that Brandel Chambly, who works for Golf Channel, who Patrick Reed is suing in a massive defamation lawsuit. Yeah, it doesn't look great. The story goes that the week started off with Teagate, with Rory getting a tee tossed at him by Patrick Reed. The media ran with that, including myself. It wasn't really a throw. It was more of a toss, but it was a heck of a story.
But they don't like each other, so that means more,
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I'm all for the drama. Keep it coming. But yeah, in the third round of the Dubai Desert Classic, he hits a tee shot into a group of 3 trees, and they get lodged at the top of a palm tree. Golf balls get stuck up there, as you can see in this photo here. And it was interesting because Patrick Reed claims that the ball went into the third tree of the 3, which are separated by a good 10 to 15 yards. These aren't like that close of trees. The slow-mo video that Chambly did a really good job of breaking down shows that the ball very clearly went into the first tree.
Okay.
And then, as to you alluded to, Patrick Reed put out a statement today, about 48 hours later, saying that he wasn't responsible for locating the tree that it went into. He just had to identify its golf ball. So basically, he's pinning it back on the DP World Tour and the officials, saying that they looked for my golf ball and they claimed to have found it in this tree. So I wasn't going to, argue this. And the big deal here is if he didn't identify his golf ball in the tree, he would have had to go back to the tee and re-tee playing his third shot. Instead, he drops it underneath the tree as an unplayable, plays his third from there, makes bogey. It kind of sucks that the tournament was overseas in an 8-hour time difference.
Yeah.
Because it was a heck of a tournament. Rory wins by 1 over Patrick Reed with 2 birdies on the last 2 holes. So it was a heck of a week. The golf gods surely blessed us this week.
Yeah, but who finished third? Do you know?
I don't know.
Okay, Davey will text me in a moment. But to me, that's the big contention is like if the prize money and the differential based on what could have been a penalty. Having to go back and tee it up again instead of just making bogey on that. And here's the other thing, like Chambly is pointing to, and he's not wrong if you think about it, he's like, these trees are likely littered with Titleist Pro V1s. So if you're playing a Pro V1, you can just point to it and say, yeah, that's my golf ball. And Patrick is like, I just got extremely lucky in finding mine, which, is it likely that that's the only golf ball in the tree? Probably not.
Right, exactly. And all these guys, 95% of them are playing at Pro V1. They all mark them with a specific marking, or they have their initial on it, whatever the case may be, which can be unique to your threesome or your twosome playing that afternoon. But if you got 60 golf balls, I mean, you can see in the video where there's 15 golf balls in that tree alone. I'm going to guess that 10 of them are Pro V1s regardless. So, yeah, I mean, you can call it a lucky break. You would like to give Reed the benefit of the doubt, but that ship has sailed many moons ago with how many kind of allegations that have surrounded him in the cheating space.
Where would you put him on the unlikable meter in golf? I've heard he's not the most well-liked professional on tour.
Yeah, he's right up there towards the top. Most casual or like diehard golf fans would probably rank him number 1. But the thing is, too, is this isn't like a 250th ranked golfer in the world. Like Patrick Reed has a green jacket. He has 9 wins on tour. When he's on, I would put him as a top 25 player in the world. His short game is unbelievable. It saved him. That's how he won the green jacket. he's an unbelievable player. He's just very unlikable. He's kind of like a Stetson Bennett kind of guy. He's good, but he's kind of an unlikable guy, just the kind of way he carries himself. From the moment he got on tour, even back to his college days, he's just not been easy to root for. I guess he tends to rub people the wrong way with the way he kind of talks and handles himself and all this stuff that seems to always follow him around.
And McIlroy's on the opposite end of that, especially with the way he's handled everything by backing it up. Even on the range last week, right? With in regards to the Live Tour and his disdain for the players that have done that.
Yeah, he's become the unofficial spokesperson for the tour, Rory. He's always been very candid with the media, but this past 12, 18 months, when Live was even just a rumor, he was the first to slam it. But he's tame with his responses, and the fact that he knows in today's world of golf that maybe the two need to come together and all this kind of stuff. But he also wants adults in the room, which he is claiming that Greg Norman, the CEO of Live, is not acting like an adult. So they have to get all this stuff. He's a smart guy. Roy's not a dumb guy. There's a reason he makes hundreds of millions off the golf course, on top of the golf course. He knows what he's talking about. And yeah, they're, like you said, they're complete polar opposites in this, which makes it fun, right? I mean, if these were two guys that were kind of tame and it's just kind of a run-in scuffle. You also have the Ryder Cup stuff. They've had Ryder Cup matches together. They have one of the best ever a few years ago where they went back and forth. So they've got a history, which just adds to the entertainment factor of all this, which is, in today's world, I mean, you need that in golf, right?
Well, Mark Harris with us. I'm curious, like everyone's got a price. What would McIlroy's price be since he's doubled down so much here?
I'm not sure. I mean, it's got to be well north of, I don't know, 500 million maybe. I mean, that's just a number I'm tossing out. But it's like I said, this guy doesn't need the money.
Right.
He's very settled in. He's won everything but a green jacket. He's got a family now. I mean, he's set for life. So it's just kind of like the Tiger situation. He's set for life off the golf course. So why would you go over there for a couple hundred more million?
I hope he does it now, just based on the flag that he's flying there on behalf of the PGA. And with that in mind, who's like second in command of this leadership role among active players from the PGA perspective?
I'll probably put Justin Thomas up there. Just kind of that young core group. Scotty Scheffler's up there.
Yep.
I'd put Tony Finau. He's been pretty devout to the PGA Tour. Justin Thomas is another guy, but he'll speak his mind. Jordan Spieth is another one. Just kind of that core late 20s, early 30s group of guys that they've won a lot of money on the PGA Tour and they're happy where they are on the PGA Tour.
And from the PGA perspective, I wonder what the pitch was initially that got them to respond the way they did, because others took the bag.
Right. I think it's a safety thing, right? I mean, they've made a comfortable amount of money and they know that there's no risk in staying with the tour as far as the tournaments they want to play. They're going to get into the Players and they're going to get into the 4 majors if they're eligible, and they get into those majors if they qualify for them. And that's the flip side of Live, is we know that Augusta and April, Live golfers that are eligible. So Patrick Reed will play in the Masters, barring an injury or whatever. He will be there because he has a green jacket, and that's how it works. If you win there, you can play in the Masters till the day you die, and I'm sure he plans on doing that, just like Phil Mickelson. So yeah, we'll see those guys there, but that's kind of the big hindering point for the Live guys.
A week and a half, 2 weeks ago, Live announced that they're going to be on the CW. If it's CW or no distribution, is that really validation that you're getting TV distribution? Or I looked at it and I thought, that's it? I was expecting something grander than what it ended up being. And there's got to be some streaming things to this as well, where they can continue doing what they were doing.
Yeah, the CW network was not on my bingo card for the home of Live Golf for the next couple years.
For anything, really.
Yeah, exactly. Besides, whatever, they're probably remaking One Tree Hill or whatever on the CW, that kind of thing.
That would get me to tune in.
But yeah. So they're going to stream. They're going to stream the first round of Live on the app, and then the weekend round, Saturdays and Sundays, they'll be on their app. Who knew the CW had an app? They have an app, by the way.
Yeah.
And
we know who it's owned by now too.
Streaming on the thing as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no more YouTube.
So, it's Yeah, it'll be YouTube.
Okay.
I'm sure. I'm assuming it'll. I guess. Well, maybe not. I guess it won't still be on YouTube because they're going to want you to go to the CW. But my big thing with like this new season of Live, more money, more events, is for the people that have been keeping up with it. It's no longer the new thing, right? Like the CW, sure, they'll get some more casual fans in that may tune in. Maybe they get a couple big names to join. They haven't announced any big names. Today, Sebastian Munoz he's a top 100 player in the world, but he's not going to get viewership like a name that you would recognize. He's going to make the jump to Live Golf, but it's not new anymore, and they're going to have to switch something up, or you're just going to have this divided crowd of you're going to get your streaming numbers last year, your 15,000 people to watch a tournament over in London compared to, a few million watching the Honda Classic in a couple of weeks and on the PGA Tour. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see what it looks like this year, if anything different, even with, like you said, even if they're on a network.
Yeah. By the way, Rory won the tournament at 19 under. As you mentioned, Reed is runner-up, 18 under. It was Lucas Herbert, or is it Herbe? Mark, you'll know.
I think it's. I've heard people do it both ways. It's one of those names where you can. Yeah, Herbe sounds better.
Herbe, yeah, it does. It sounds like you finished third if you're Lucas Herbe, and it sounds like you would have some pull and some opportunity to point out that the golf ball went in tree number 1, not tree number 3 in terms of tree gate. And he finished 16 under. Reed finished 18 under for the tournament. He's Australian. So
there you go.
Yeah, there you go. He could.
I've heard the name. I just, Patrick Reed and Rory McIlroy dominated. So I was after that. I was kind of tuned out. What happened after that?
Well, maybe he's headed to Live Golf if he's not already. Who knows? Based on the money that he can make up there. I wonder what the difference was in the payout. Leave us with this, Mark. Another column at OutKick. Jim Boeheim. What arrogant answer did he give to a very fair question?
Yeah, so Syracuse played Virginia last night, and I think the 4th or 5th leading minutes getter for Syracuse wasn't even in the building. He's not there, wasn't on the bench with Syracuse or anything. And a reporter simply asked him the question, where I think his name's Benny Williams. If I'm getting that wrong, I apologize. That it was, the 4th man off the team minutes wise wasn't in the building, and Jim Boeheim wasn't having it. He was like, that's your most important question to ask after we lost to Virginia, this kind of thing. And then he kind of pauses and he goes, I'll answer your question, but I don't really like your attitude about it. So it's one of those things where I think most would agree in the college basketball world that Jim Boeheim's his clock has ticked already. Probably he's 78 years old. He's been at Syracuse, probably since I've been alive. Which is he's done unbelievable things there, won national titles, but it seems like that was another thing where it's just like, okay, this guy's it's time to go, which Syracuse isn't probably going to force him out because he's a legend. But if they miss the tournament this year, it'll be 2 in a row that they haven't made the tournament. So it'll be interesting to see kind of, as that rabid fan base, Syracuse, all they got up there is basketball. So we'll see what happens.
And they're 13-10. You've got the blue bloods of college basketball right now that are not represented really in these rankings. It's odd to see like the top 10. And where the logos associated with the brands of college basketball right now are not the traditional brands. Boeheim's one of them. Syracuse is one of them at 13-10. And you mentioned NCAA tournament on track to miss it for 2 consecutive seasons. Valid question. And by the way, you crushed it on Benny Williams. That's exactly who it was.
Well, that was right.
Yeah. And think about this. At 13-10, you got to come up with some questions like that, right? If you're the reporter.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's better than.
It's not like he was the 11th guy off the bench. This is a guy that plays 24 minutes a night.
Yeah, if you push back on questions like that, you're going to be asked if you're going to be forced out by Syracuse, right? Like that's coming. If you don't like that question, it could get tougher. Boeheim's faced tougher too. He became the head coach in 1976, so he's been there as long as I've been around too.
There you go. Yeah, he was. I was minus 16 in 1976, so he's got me.
All right. Well, luckily I'm not that old either. But Boeheim aging out, it seems, with at least the crankiness and his pushback against the media. Mark Harris has been our guest. You can read all of his work and see the videos we've discussed, including the 22-year-old impersonating a 13-year-old in a game where she dominates. It reminded me, next time we have Withrow here, well, hopefully tomorrow, we'll see. Next time you're on with us, he's got to tell the story of he was posted up against Stacy Shell, I believe is her name, and he is just swatting shot attempts out of bounds, layup attempts. He always references this. This video reminds me of that. When you see the arrogance of the 22-year-old facing off against 13. By the way, she must look 14 or 15 years old to pull this off.
Right. Yeah, and it's not like she was 6'4" out there playing. I mean,
but she does
teenagers
tower
these days
over them, though.
Yes. Yeah, and like the block on the first highlight, she swats it out of the frame, and she probably doesn't get about 2 inches off the ground. She didn't have to move really. It was I couldn't believe it, and like I said to start off, I'm glad that there was video highlights, because most stories like that you never see the video, it never sees the light of day. But credit to that high school for putting the video out.
Yeah, great job with this as well on your end. We appreciate it, man. As always, keep up the great work.
Absolutely, thanks, man.
Yeah,
appreciate you.
Mark Harris, OutKick.com is where you can find more great videos and posts just like the ones we were discussing there.